Well, hello, everybody. I'd love to welcome you here today on this beautiful Friday afternoon here on the East Coast. Well, not for David. He's on the other side of our country, but that's a whole nother story. Want to welcome all of you across YouTube, across Facebook, across LinkedIn. Just to preface what's going to happen here today, David and I met not that long ago, actually. We met at a partner event with a company called Keep, and David happened to be the sponsor of the VIP room there. I happened to be one of the VIP guests. So I had the luxury of being able to sit down and getting to meet David a little bit and just jamming a little bit. And we kind of had a little synergy going there in our conversation, so much so that we decided we wanted to have additional conversations after the event. We did so. And then we were like, we got to do something. So I'm like, you know what? Instead of just talking to each other, let's just talk to each other, but throw it online, because I know when I was growing business a long time ago, one of the things I really appreciated was anytime I got to be a fly on the wall, when you can listen to people who've been there, done that, and have a little bit of insight into what I was trying to do. So David and I decided to bring that to you here today, and I hope that works for all of you. We're basically going to talk about scaling 7 to 8 figures today, and that could bring us anywhere. I make you no promises on where this conversation is going to go. If it ends up going in a great direction, fantastic. Let us know, and we'll be happy to see about maybe doing some more of these, right? So why don't we go ahead and just do a little intro of ourselves, David? If you would just introduce yourself a little bit, yourself, your company, and what you do.
Yeah, David Gilliland. I'm with Elite Entrepreneurs, and what we do is we have the leadership system for scaling from 7 to 8 figures. So that's our space. That's the path that we run, and we know it very well. And our work has, we've worked with hundreds of companies across the U.S. and in several other countries, all focused on these certain stages of business and what it takes to really shift gears and become the leader your team needs you to be, and to build the rest of them out. So we talk that direction, really heavy on the visionary leadership in a very practical way. It's a lot of fun. We enjoy it, and that's why you and I hit it off so well, Dean, because you've been playing in that space too. I think between the two of us, we probably have some 50,000 hours of consulting and working with companies, helping them do this work. So
yeah.
We put our dues in through this time, and I'm just so honored I've been able to work with so many great companies.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I resonate very much so with what you're saying. I have 2 companies myself, Online Marketing Muscle and the Dean Mercado company, essentially all revolving around helping growth-minded entrepreneurs level up, figuring out how to scale without all the chaos. And yes, it does involve a lot of online marketing muscle stuff evolved over such a long period of time. We've been around 20 years. So we were from the beginning days of companies having websites all the way to all the automation and AI stuff we do today to try and get these business owners out of their own way. Our coaching side of the business has lent a lot into the vision and the leadership and the growth, because we always found that your business will only ever grow to the degree that you do. And so it's part of why I have such an affinity for what David and his team does, because it's so critical. I can't express how important it is. Everyone says they want to grow, but you got to be willing to do the work, right? And most of that work starts with what's going on here. So this is probably a really good segue, David, into maybe a first conversation where we could talk a little bit about mindset, because off of that, dovetailing off of what I just mentioned about your business will only grow to the degree that you do. And one of the challenges I know I see all the time is companies coming to me and saying, oh yeah, we want to go to $1 million. We want to go to 10 million. We want to go to 100 million. Okay, great. That's fine. But you've got to understand what it takes and how to behave when it comes to actually becoming a 7-figure, an 8-figure, a 9-figure type company.
And the CEO that could run one, right? Like you've got to become the CEO that could run one if you're going to build one and get there. And, I kind of like to look at it at some stages, and I'm sure the listeners, and you've seen this a ton of times, but there's this earlier part of the journey in the 7-figure space. Let's say they're between 1 and 5 million.
Right
around in that space. That's one shift. And then when you're going this 3, 4, 5 to 10, 20 million, it's another game.
Yes.
But if you don't get this first game right and you're stuck treating your business like it's a sub-$1 million business, where the business owner like is the superhero that does everything, is
Right.
better at everything than everyone else, and kind of has to be in there making sure it's perfect. That's what puts the brakes on their growth. It's when they sit there and don't
Right.
let go. I think that's part of this mindset shift.
Yeah.
Dean, what is it you've done to help people overcome that old mindset and adopt a new one? How do you help them transition?
There's a lot that goes on there. And first off it's just like anything. When there's a problem, we have to shine a light on it. I mean, so yes, we call it superhero syndrome, what you were referring to. And that is extremely common. That's a 6-figure mentality, because we're 6 figures. We're always trying to drag it to the finish line ourselves. And that a lot of times carries over into the low 7 figures. And that mentality needs a major kind of shift, that what got you here won't get you there. So if what you're saying you want to go is here, we've got to work on what's going on there. So many a time when it comes to that, it's about starting to ask a lot of questions. First, we shine a light on it. Then it's about figuring out, well, what do you truly want and why? Because if there's not a strong enough why behind whatever it is they're saying they want, it'll never happen.
Yeah. And the piece I like at this stage, because usually, you've got a handful of people working with you now. And you can't be the one who kind of keeps it all in your head anymore. It's got to be that the whole team with you, or at least key members, so you're like, these are the ones I lean on, right? That they're helping to get really clear about what that why is with you. That it's their why also. Such a huge shift, right? And scary. So I'm going to open up like the why my business exists, the drive, where we're going. I'm going to open that up to my team.
Right.
Yeah. And they've got to be a part of creating it with you, is what we've seen as one of the keys if you want to grow quickly. And you could drag along and slowly grow, but the symptoms are, yes, the slow growth. You've got your late nights because, hey, you're trying to do everyone's job, fix everything.
Right.
Maybe struggling at home. Might be that you're seeing fires that you run from one group to one team to the next team, fixing over and over again, right? I always love looking, and I'll get into a company and it's like, all right, just can you just share your numbers? And I can't tell you how many at that 1-2 million phase have these ups and downs. It looks like it's cyclical in their
roller
business.
coaster. Yeah.
In the same year, 2 ups, 2 downs. It's like, I'm hard pressed to find an industry like that.
Right.
Like, that has nothing to do with cyclicality of industry. It's where you're putting your focus. And that's a key sign that you're the bottleneck, right?
That's right. And, I'm a self-proclaimed bottleneck. I've been a bottleneck of my own company forever. The good part about it is I look at being the bottleneck as a really good thing, because when I'm able to identify that I'm the bottleneck, then I can now start towards healing, towards moving towards what it is I say I want. And with a lot of our clients, that's what we do with them. We'll take them through that understanding process as we expose things. And then we start talking through, well, what should this thing look like? What has to happen? What shifts need to be made? And many times it's not as much as only taking new things on as much as it is getting rid of things that don't fit anymore. It's about removing things. And most of us who come out of 6 into 7, and then as we're pushing, we want to get higher in 7 and up. We're trying to drag it all still with us. We don't want to let go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you just have to. You have to at some point.
Let's get practical. I mean, we talk about like, what are we letting go? And what's it look like? I think, at this first stage, a lot of times it's as simple as that big customer calls in with a problem.
Yeah.
And instead of you jumping in to fix it as the leader, the first step is, who am I bringing with me?
Right.
And are the two of us looking at this together to say, how do we build a process that this doesn't happen for anyone again? And that gets into some of the things that you play really well with, not just leaders step out of the way, but let's plug in a process and automate a couple things that make it simpler and ensure we don't drop that ball anymore.
Right. Now, you hit on a big point there with the whole who, not how concept. You know, Dan Sullivan actually turned it into a book, Who, Not How. And it's so spot on because we are so trained at this point to think, how am I going to get this done? Oh, I got this new thing. How am I, as opposed to who can get this done for me?
Yeah.
Who's the right person to bring in here? You know, and it's a different mindset shift where it's like, okay, if you really want to not just growing it, and a lot of people could do incremental growth. I'm talking exponential. I'm talking scaling. If you truly want to scale, you have to shift that mindset from the how to the who, right? Who can do this for me? Who's the best person suited for this? Because I always say it doesn't matter how much something costs me. It matters how much it makes me. And we've got to get out of the way, our own way of thinking that, oh yeah, I need the money and I have to make all of that money for myself, so I'm going to do it myself. No, because while you're doing it yourself, you're not focused on the things that are necessary of a CEO. To come back to full circle of something you mentioned earlier, David, about being the CEO of the company. And I can't agree with that anymore. It's wholeheartedly a great piece of advice. And one of the things I try and help entrepreneurs understand is as they step into that role, truly, not the fake CEO that they always had been, what they think, what a real CEO does, right? Now, I know you folks teach some of that there, and so do we. What are some of those things, David, that if I'm the CEO of my company, what are the 2, 3, 4 things, most important things I should be focusing on?
Yeah, if I was taking and saying, and again, we're doing this stage of the business, right?
Right.
We're doing this early stage right now. But the first steps are, one, I mean, if we're going to do this who, not how, like you just talked about, there's a couple of things that better be in place because this is my baby.
Yes.
I am not about to hand my business over to some unproven whatever,
right?
Kid, or even, experienced executive from something else that's going to ruin my business that I built. And so the first thing is what we already alluded to. Can I get the vision out of my head and into the minds and hearts of my team? Can we do this in a way that all of us see and act like business owners together, making decisions in line, headed the same direction? So CEO's job, you got to set the vision. We have to have everybody knowing exactly where they're heading and what it takes to win. So setting the vision isn't just like, we want to someday be twice as big as we are today. Like, no, that's lame. That could be a sub piece, and I want that in there. But I want to know the impact we're going to have. I want to know how we go about delivering that impact in a way that we don't have to take long showers at night just to clean off the yucky feeling going against who we really are, right? Like, I want to feel good about it. I want it to be sustainable effort, and I want my whole team to have a sense of contribution. So if we can get that vision together and then deep into their hearts because it's real, there's no hypocrisy in this, we can do that. That's huge. Then a plan together of how we're going to execute against it. That includes a strategy and what are the priorities? What are the strengths we've got to build or leverage in order to really deliver? So that's kind of a first thing. And if the CEO doesn't do a good job of that, what you have is a bunch of employees who are out there doing tasks they've been told to do and creating no value. They're filling a seat. They're doing about 40 to 60% of their capacity because that's one of the areas you've been a roadblock. You don't realize it, but you've been a roadblock because you've kept it here in your head instead of getting it into their heart. So I would say that's number one. Number two, build the team.
Yes, absolutely.
Every step, every moment, every challenge, every issue, we are never solving problems. We're never like just think, oh, my job isn't to run initiatives. It's not to solve problems. It's not to roll out new product lines. All of those things are contexts to building a great team that can do that over and over again when you're not even there.
Correct.
Right? Each one of those is that's an opportunity to build a relationship and build a team member. Let's use every opportunity. So that's building the team. And then I'd say another thing of the CEO is, can I build a culture of accountability with clarity so that we deliver on the results we promise? So we've got these projects. Now let's get clear on how to win and who's doing what by when, and learn how to work in unison so we deliver results. So then the delivering results, the reason the CEO cares about that, CEO has to make sure you don't run out of cash.
That's
So
right.
you are
Cash flow.
setting a vision, building a team, don't run out of cash, get those results doing, and all along the way, caring deeply for your team so they care about serving you. So that's what I would say. That's the CEO job.
Right. I'm sitting here smiling because I hear myself a lot in that, because we obviously are cut from similar molds in that way, where with our thinking, and we define it much the same way, with the vision, the team, and the cash flow. And very, very, very important that those three elements get adhered to and orchestrated, and it will evolve as the company evolves. But the bottom line and the hardest step in all of this is that first part of just allowing yourself to trust someone else with your baby.
Yes.
And
so big, right?
You can't grow otherwise. You can't grow otherwise.
And if you look at it, when you're doing, I'll say, individual contributor work, that's solving the customer issue, closing a deal, whatever, right? All that individual contributor work, you may be making $200, $300, $400 an hour.
Right.
That's the kind of contribution you're making to your business. That's money. That's not bad.
Right.
But when you are doing it to where now you're leading 10 others to do that, it's $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 an hour kind of work.
That's right. Right.
That's where you want your hours.
That's the difference between incremental thinking and exponential thinking, correct? Yeah. I mean, and that's a shift. Like, I just came out of a recent mastermind down in Georgia, and it was incredible to me, that mindset shift that was yet to happen. And it was so incremental. Everything was incremental, and all the co-coaching going on around the floor was all incremental coaching. And it was like, I had to pull a few people aside and say, time out. How's that been working out for you? So why are you passing that along to someone else? Because you're just dooming them to the same whatever you created for yourself. And if you're sitting here saying you're not happy, what do you think it's going to do for them when they're even more novice with it than you were? Right. So it's many times we get stuck doing what the pack is doing what we hear other people are saying, not really paying attention to ourselves, our gut, not really paying attention to the market and to our clients and even our team members on what has to happen. And that's a big unfortunate. But, I mean, we could probably go on and on and on when it comes to mindset.
Yeah. And we could, I don't want to like doom anyone here. We come by it naturally, and it was the right mindset as a six-figure business owner.
Yes.
That was critical.
Yes.
Those were the right lessons to learn. I'm so glad you learned those lessons.
Yes.
Now we just need to help others learn those same lessons so they could, each one of our team members, in essence, run a six-figure business, the value that they're adding.
Right.
That's how you get to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 million thing, is all your team members begin succeeding at that same level. That's what we're doing. We're just shifting.
You see, folks, when you see me do things like this is me saying that David's hitting it on the nose. That was spot on, right on the nose. And it's not about making ourselves wrong. It's not about that. It's about recognizing what's happening and that everything's happening for a reason. We're the creator here. We're creating our reality, whether we like to think that way or not. You need to start thinking that way. It's not the economy's fault. It's not the company down the block's fault. It's not your client's fault. We create our reality. And if there's any truth to that statement, and it has been truth for me in my own businesses over the years, then we ought to start paying attention to what we're feeding this. Who we're surrounding ourselves with makes a big difference. Right. And even if that who you're surrounding yourself with is going to one of David's events, going to one of Dean's events, you start surrounding yourself with people who have been there, done that, people who are doing it, people who are traveling the journey. but just keeping in mind that we all have our own journey, and not every journey looks exactly the same, but there are certain principles that keep showing up over and over and over again. And we'd be remiss if we ignored them. Like getting your mindset right, getting your vision down pat. In our clone the owner methodology, those are two key components of it: the vision and the mindset. And that's before we even get into technology and marketing and sales and all the sexy stuff. If you can find it in your heart to find the sexiness of creating that proper vision, you're going to be much further faster on your way. And in a previous conversation, David, I know I mentioned to you coming out of big corporate America and with the MBA and stuff like that I did when I was in school, how I came out thinking like, oh, this whole vision thing, it's all a bunch of garbage, all frou-frou. The company I worked for at the time had it hanging on the wall, and they didn't mean it. They didn't care about it. And it was clear. It was evident. So it made me think for a while that it wasn't true. That was not how you go about doing things. So when I first became an entrepreneur, I tried going the opposite direction. And when you hear me say things like I made every mistake known to man, yeah, I did. And probably some more, lots of money in mistakes. That's not difficult to do over a couple of decades. But in the beginning, it was freaking painful, really painful. I still make mistakes today. Who doesn't, right? We all still do. But, when we talk about, let's shift a little bit. Let's talk about leadership. Let's talk a little bit about team, if we may. Now, I know from my own experience, the best companies that I was ever part of was when I was focused on building that rock star team. When I call them my sharpshooters, whenever I wrap my head around bringing in the sharpshooters, creating sharpshooters, work was easy.
Yeah.
Results were easy.
And fun, right?
Yeah, and a lot of fun, but yet just like many, we keep falling into that same trap over and over again. Any experience with that? You see any of that on your own?
You mean with the trap of, there's so many different angles on this. The trap of, oh yeah, I need a team, but I could just train these people up, and I could spend probably like half as much or a third as much on someone like this, and I could grow them up, and then we'll be making really good money, and then this could be a repeatable process. This would be great, and then you realize, oh, but I'm getting half or a third, if that, of the productivity. Again, I need to hire for the revenue I'm going to bring in, not hire for the expenses I can reduce.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's such a bad trap. It's like one of those things, and people hear things, oh, just get a VA. Yeah. You're going to put a VA in certain positions. Okay. I made that mistake once. I'll never make that mistake again. Where I put my VA, and this is going back many, many, many years, put a VA in charge of my whole PR/social media presence at the time, because I got tired of doing it. And so now you're entrusting your brand and your voice to somebody who's never run a business before.
Yeah. Well, let's take it apart, because it's helpful to bring in some young talent to do certain things, or even unproven at times. But if we divided the work in the business as like strategic work, strategically supportive, and necessary evil work, and let's say we've got these three little categories,
right?
If I'm bringing in my sharpshooters, to use your term on this, I need sharpshooters in my strategic work.
Right.
I have to have A players.
That's right.
I want A players up and down, but let's say A players for that level and that realm. And so then I get down to Michael, well, and that could be different for a different company. So like a marketing agency, well, it sort of depends on what is your win in the market. And if yours is the PR stuff and the social media things, man, I need a rock star. I need someone who I'm going to pay more than I pay myself.
Right.
To get into that spot and really take it, right? It's the thing that's going to have the greatest impact for our customers and our bottom line. Like what they do is going to drive it. That's a key person. And and hopefully people listening on this, you look at it and say, if you're in that 7-figure space, it is very common to pull in somebody who really matches the vision, the values, that they get it, but their skill level is off the charts and they make more than you do for 3 years.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that. If you could convince them to come over and they're knocking it out of the ballpark, you want to pay them more. In time, when you're into the 8-figure space, don't worry, the dividends are going to cover that.
Yes,
for you.
exactly.
Exactly. That's not an issue. You need them to drive that forward. And then you take these other people and you're like, so strategically supportive, what might that role be in the same kind of business we just talked about? It could be a copywriter who's really great, doesn't know how to place all right, or maybe the copywriter's up there at the top. I don't know where your strategy is on that, but it could be a tech person on the back end that automates the stuff and gets it ready to get out there the way you need it to. Maybe that's your play. I don't know. It depends on what strengths you're going to use to win in your marketplace.
Correct.
What do they want and what can you bring and where does that product market fit happen? So figure out those necessary evils. Hey, outsource as many of those as you can.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you need it internal because it just makes sense,
yes,
fine. Use a VA.
Right.
There's some things you could do, or someone who will never drop the ball because maybe it's a legally protecting your backside kind of position. So they better have some skills. But yeah, I don't need them to be charging and taking risks and pushing hard. I need them to just be slow and consistent and steady and never let it drop.
Yeah.
Right.
See, yeah, I totally agree. And I know a question for everybody, if there's anybody out there listening, one of the things I would suggest and ask of all of you is, would you be willing to pay somebody more than what you're making, right? If they were driving in a significant amount of revenue into the business, and that's a hard thing. For number one, it's a knock to our egos, and we have to get our ego out of the way long enough so that we can move the business forward and move ourselves forward, because it takes a shift in our thinking. A concept I always use in all areas of my business is to focus on the fewer better. And when it comes to building my team, I focus on the fewer better. So I try and minimize the in-house as much as I can. If, mission critical people, yeah, they're in-house. Outside of that, I'm a sharpshooter guy. Give me the best guy you got that I can find that can do this for me. Give me the best gal I can find that'll do that for me. That's just my approach in business today. Doesn't mean every business needs to do that. Just, I'm always of the mindset of trying to keep the costs as low as possible and investing as much as possible in the ones that are on this team. Make it so lucrative that they don't want to go anywhere. So no matter how much I train them up, or no matter how much they train while they're here, they don't want to go anywhere. They appreciate the vision. They appreciate the mission on where we're going right now and why. Right. And they are getting to do what they love to do. Right. And
so that CEO work.
Yeah.
Find the talent. So if you can be like a talent scout whisperer, I would not outsource.
Right.
This piece at this stage.
Yes, exactly.
I would be just really intentional. Like, I need those sharpshooters, like you're saying. Who's going to kill it for me? Mm-hmm. Who's going to be the best? I had a client. They were approaching a couple million. And he was like, what does it take to get to the next level? And I told him, I said, I need you to build your leadership team. Start finding the best of the best and get them on board. And then when you've got them, give me a call and let's talk, right? And he did. He was talking with people. He was going. He was bringing them in. He got a leadership team together that I think of the 5 people in that group, 3 of the 5 were making more than he was.
Wow.
So there's only one who wasn't, right? That was a kid. And he found the best of the best. And they had some nice packages and options, and they had upside too. And he's like, I don't care. I'm finding the best of the best. If it's not working out, I'll move them out. But he found good ones. And I mean, it wasn't until they were over 10 million in revenue that he was finally catching up with them.
Right. Right.
They're at like 45 million now. And guess what? He's doing really well.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a little bit of patience, a little bit of forethought really can go a long way.
And what a team. What a team, right?
Yes.
Each of them are doing well. He's doing well. they're making a difference out there because he chose to invest. But here's one of the changes I think that we have to go through. So if we're going to lead teams, there's one simple shift is try to lead less with answers and start leading more with questions. Right? That's so simple, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But that's what it is. It's like,
Yes.
oh, that's slow. No, what's slow is sticking with doing it the way you always have and being the same size company for the next 20 years. That's
right.
Slow, right? Solving the answers instantly. That's slow.
Right.
You build those people with questions, not so that they get the right answer, but so that they learn how to ask the right questions. So
Absolutely.
they learn how to start framing things and figuring it out and solving any problem. And that's what a great leader is doing. You don't just get better people, you get more committed. It's their idea.
Right. That's right.
I mean, how likely is
yes,
that to be implemented?
I'm quite on board with that. It's teaching people how to think as opposed to telling them what to think. And I think that, and I'm going on a little tangent, but our educational system has a breakdown there where they're teaching kids and training them. Yeah. They're putting them all in a box like that. And they're telling them this is how you need to think, as opposed to let's work on how to think, big shift. And that's, if I'm talking 7-figure to 8-figure, that's a big shift that's happening in that space where we're not only ourselves as CEOs of our companies working on how to think better, but we're training our team, our core team, to do the same so that they can train their teams how to do the same, so that train the trainer concept starts to unfold there. But it is all about, I don't want people who follow task. That's the biggest problem I have with a lot of these task management, project management systems like your Asanas and stuff. Drives me bananas because it's not just about a task. I want people around me to understand why they're doing it. Why does this matter? Why does the function and the role that I've assigned you and asked you to carry for us, why does it matter? How does it fit? Very, very powerful stuff.
I'll do this for you on this one. I mean, when you just mentioned this idea of, and remembering, it wasn't just to get people and to invite them to think with you. It was that you invited them to think right in line with the vision.
Yes.
Let's infuse meaning, which, by the way, infuses an endless source of energy and creativity. Right. When they find meaning in it, when they're home taking a shower, they're solving your business problems.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. That's like when I coach, I tell my clients all the time, it's like, don't think I stop thinking about you as soon as we get off the phone. That's not how it works. When we fully invest, we are fully invested. It's like I'm concocting strategy and ideas for you 24/7. I can't shut it off. It's just, I'm wired that way. Maybe not everybody is, but I know I am. So I wanted to make sure that as we are approaching what we said, we wanted to stop somewhere around 10 after the hour. Want to touch a little bit on systems because we just Hairline touched it before. And I know for certain we do a lot with systems in my companies. And what got you from 6 to 7 figures might get you into the low 7s, but is not going to get you into the mid 7s. And what gets you into those 7s is certainly not going to be the same systems in the same exact way as your 8-figure business. They have to evolve. Just like our team has to evolve, so do our systems have to evolve with it as well.
Dean, what are some of the warning signs that your system has lived its life cycle and it's time to start shifting gears on the system that you're using? What do you see breaking down when their systems are just they're probably just past that point?
Yeah. I mean, some of the most visible are the most painful. And usually that's when we start getting feedback, whether it's reviews, testimonials, being fired by clients, whatever that looks like. Unfortunately, for most of us, We wait until things get there before we start thinking maybe it's us. Maybe there's something going on here. Maybe the system doesn't fit anymore. And no good, folks. You have to have mechanisms in place, metrics in place, controls, we call them, right? Our colonial owner methodology has team, systems, and controls, right? And it's in this order, actually. It's systems, team, controls, to help us understand if those systems are still doing what they're supposed to be doing. We need controls to let us know that the team is still getting done what we need to get them to get done. We have to have those controls. So the controls keep everything flowing in a business.
Give us an example of a control that you think is like, oh, when they've got this in place, you already know their customer experience is going to be better.
Yeah, I mean, depends on the system that we're throwing out there. But I mean, if we're talking, like, let's just talk about a satisfied client, like customer service, right? How often are people actually asking, surveying their customers? How often are they actually talking to their customers about what's going on? So what metrics might we be keeping? Whether it's attrition, people falling out the back door, right? Whether it's lifetime value of a customer or a client, right? One of the things I'm always suggesting to companies is you should always understand what your ideal lifetime value is, what it currently is, and what it should be, right? And then we look to up the systems game to help us achieve that, up the training game to help our team members help our systems achieve that, right?
Yeah.
So
if we don't have a metric that we're tracking that helps us to know if we're staying on top, things start to fall apart. Common in this phase, revenue's going up, margins going down.
Right.
And so looking
yeah.
at something like a revenue per employee or a profitability per employee kind of metric and just say, how is that going for us?
Exactly.
And the moment it starts getting off, to start to say, okay, was it because of one hire that's throwing this off? Or was it because we're just getting so busy, we can't collaborate, coordinate the way we used to? Like, it used to happen kind of naturally. Now we need a system built, a process, right, that can run through and help control those. And I love it. That's some of the genius that you and your team bring in are, let's get these systems in place that can help us stay on track.
So you just hit a big one there with, we do a lot of work with the cleaning industry. And one of the numbers I want them all tracking is that profitability by employee. So you're sending teams out to go get work done. How profitable are those teams? And there's a lot of numbers that go into that, into figuring out that profitability, but it's mission critical, because if you're trying to scale and you're trying to scale on top of a foundation that's already cracked, broken, shaky, what do you think is going to happen? Chaos is going to happen, right? I've been there myself.
You're just going to go out of business. If you don't fix it. Like, you run out of cash so fast.
Exactly. And it's demoralizing for your team. It's a bad situation for your clients. It's a lose-lose all the way around, right? So when companies come to me and tell me they want to scale, that's one of the first things we're looking at those systems. What do you got? And how do we know for certain that you're actually using these systems? You're not just handing me a manual that looks like this and saying, here it is, here's our manual. Okay, great. Well, it's very dusty, I notice. How are we ensuring, what controls do we have in place to make sure that the teams are using the systems that relate to the job they're doing? So whatever aspect of the job, there might, every job that might have 15 different systems, and processes, depends on what they're doing for the company. But every role has their systems that are attached.
And to be aware that your old number, when you were smaller, may not apply as you're growing. Quick example, had a client going through this. We're really great if people have their product market fit pretty well in there and a decent business model with good accounting. Our leadership stuff's going to take them to great places. But if they're moving along and some of these numbers aren't tracked right, it can be a real disaster. So at $1 million, they were tracking, here was the value of marketing. As long as, marketing was delivering X amount of value, here was our CAC, cost of acquisition, right? Client acquisition costs was X for them. Terrific. And that was working great. And as they were moving to new markets, they were doing CAC as an aggregate always.
Right.
And so they're moving and they're like, well, it's doing pretty good. It's kind of new. It's catching up. But really, all the new stuff was doing terrible. The old stuff was carrying the new stuff. They had this aggregate number saying here was the client acquisition costs.
Right.
And they were pushing down the gas over here. And really their costs for client acquisition in the new market was insane.
Right. Right.
But the aggregate looked great. So as they moved over here and now they're at 6-7 million and client acquisition costs is through the roof.
Right.
They actually weren't making money at all. They ran out of cash and they had to whoa, hit the brakes on everything.
Unbelievable.
Because, right? Just a simple change. But I had a good number. Well, you did. But we need to adjust, shift as we're growing, right? A little more nimble. You may have to add another number, right? There's an example.
Yeah, it's a great example. One of the things that I get pushed back all the time, and I know we're running a minute or two over. You okay for a few more minutes, maybe?
I got a couple minutes.
Okay, great. When we deal with companies with systems, one of the things we bump into is where am I going to find the time to create and write all of these systems? And I'm like, welcome AI. So when we step into companies, we start integrating newer technologies to help them create these things much faster, help them update these things much faster than they ever could in the past. So today's day and age, in my opinion, there's no excuse anymore, right? All businesses need to learn technologies and tools like AI and automation, and everything that comes at us, and this is one of the tenets I teach all the time. We've got to look at everything that comes down the pipe at us and say, okay, can I eliminate it? Yes or no? If I can't eliminate it, can I automate it? Yes or no? If I can't do that, no, I can't. Then can I delegate it? Yes or no? Right? And if I don't get a yes to any of those, I'm kind of screwed because that means I'm stuck doing it. It better be about my vision, my cash flow, or something big like that, right? Building team. If it's not, I'm doing something wrong. And I need to look at what's going on here and try and identify. So many of our clients, we've taken through the process of helping them rebuild all their SOPs, in their company rapidly, in rapid fashion, where it would have taken them years in the past. We're dwindling that down to days and weeks as opposed to years. And the beauty of that is the systems don't have to be perfect out of the gate. Version 1 is better than version none, right? We need those checklists to follow. It's like you get on an airplane. What is the pilot doing, right? The pilot right away, they go into this whole 100 and something point checklist.
They're working the pilot's checklist and we're glad they do.
Exactly. And we need to start getting in that mode with our teams as well, where our teams are using similar fashion. I don't care how many times you've done it, right? When we start getting lazy, we start getting sloppy. We start making mistakes. We don't want that in our business because that just impedes growing and scaling. So
this goes back to, again, why the vision has to be clear and they have to see a direct line, because they'll do the difficult and the mundane if they see that it really matters.
Yes.
While they won't if they don't. And so build it, tie them in. If you just rely on their heart being all there with you and you don't build these systems and processes, willpower always fails. It's only good for setting up processes.
Right.
Okay. It's only good for pulling in the right team members. It's only good for the building around here, but the doing day-to-day willpower always fails.
Right.
So get the routines, get the checklists, get those things in place, have safeguards. I think it's a powerful way as you're looking at it. I love the work you do with the team. So,
yeah, thank you. And once again, before we cut today, I want to make sure everyone gets that point of embracing AI in their business, figuring out how AI and automation can play into even helping you strategize with your business, around your business, using it to bounce ideas. There's so much you can use it for. And I know because I do that. I do that in my own businesses, so it's like, yeah, it takes the place of certain functions and having to hire certain people for certain things. But that's okay, because the team members that we do have that learn how to use this stuff become that much more potent, that much more powerful. The things we're able to create are more real time, as opposed to, okay, well, this was a system, we had it from 10 years ago. Okay, well, things are very different today than they were 10 years ago. And we're also dealing with a much different workforce as the younger generations are starting to enter the picture. And that changes a lot of the complexion when it comes to leadership and team building and things of that nature. What moves and inspires that younger generation? Well, certainly not stuck in the mud kind of stuff. We have to find ways to make it fun, sexy, interesting, lucrative, for everybody involved. So,
and as we said, going back to the beginning, full wrap, then if you're going to become the leader your team needs you to be 6 months from now and a year from now, we got to let go of our old way of doing. We need to embrace that a leader's job is to set that vision, get it deep within the team with a clear path, build the team to pull it off. And we don't mean once, we mean every day.
right.
And then the systems ensure they're doing what they need to do. Build those processes. There's no excuse anymore. We can automate this. We can use AI. Things can go fast, but build those so that your team doesn't have to carry the weight either. The system keeps that going. They can use their creativity to delight customers instead of just to check them.
There you go. That's a great parting note to leave everybody with here today. David, before we cut and run, any last minute thing you want to say to everybody, and just to make sure they know where to find you? Shoot.
You can always find me on LinkedIn, but you can also just email me. Shoot me an email, david@growwithelite.com. So growwithelite.com is our website, and you can reach out to me. Always happy to talk to any 7-figure business owner that's on that journey. I love playing this game.
Fantastic. And likewise for me, Dean Mercado. You can get me at onlinemarketingmuscle.com or just deanmercado.com, which is easier. And that will point you to Online Marketing Muscle and everything else that I'm involved in. Hey, I hope for all of you that this little conversation today lent a little bit of value. I know it did to me. And I can't stress enough that the more we stay in the conversation, the more possibility starts to open up. And that's just the way this game is, right? We want to attract abundance into our world. We don't want to shut it down. Having these kind of dialogues definitely open that up and get us thinking a little bit differently. And just, even if it's just for this afternoon, if you think a little clearer because of some of the things that were said, then I think David and I did our job here today. Something tells me we might do something like this again in the future. I know from my standpoint, David, I really enjoyed climbing a little deeper into your brain here today. Lot of fun. I
enjoy talking with you too, Dean.
Yeah, a pleasure.
Until next time.
Yep, until next time. Take care, all right? See you, everybody. Be well.